discussion of specific or long-term budget cuts at the June meeting of this board, the July meeting of this board, the August meeting of this board, or at any time before the figure of a $500,000 deficit was made public?
Yes.
Well, to reply in a general way, again, you're free to make any point you want, but I advised the town board and was advised by the comptroller that the deficits, such as certain persons have described, placed at risk the unexpended fund balance of necessity because there were overages. Earlier tonight, we looked at overages in engineering of around 20%. We looked at overages in legal of around 20%. Again, that's the 20%.
I could go into those overages with you very easily.
You may make your point, Mr. Grossman.
I'm doing that, sir. I'm trying to stick to the deficits and expenses, not the overages that might have occurred a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or the Peach Lake overages that you mentioned, only because the costs came in lower due to the contracts arising that were reduced due to our economic situation. My question for you, sir, is, my question is simply this. Forgetting the comptrollers telling you about the fund balance, if you have the information on a monthly basis, what steps did you take to present it to the town board in a way to effectively address the deficits as they were growing or to control the spending as it was happening? That's my question.
Point made, sir. Move on. Go on.
But we need an answer.
Asked and answered. I have
The
asked
town
and
board
answered.
should not be cross-examined here, Mr.
No, we need an answer.
If you have a point, you may make your point.
Mr. Yee,
I
We have
feel like
other
you're...
items of business tonight.
Right.
No, whenever there's a hard question, we have other items of business, you notice? When we're talking about the gravy train, boy, we can go on and on. I want an answer. I endorse the question that is being stated by Mr. Grossman. I endorse that question and would ask this town board to give an answer.
I feel as if we're being cross-examined here.
This is your money, remember? This is your money.
Ms. Hudak, with all due respect, Ms. Hudak...
No, this is your money, everyone, and we're not getting an answer. Your money.
You called for the order of the day, Ms. Hudak. Could you please respect that, okay? This is not a football game.
Do you know what the order of the day is,
May I please speak now? Thank you. The town board should not be cross-examined. We have explained to you that the budget process is very difficult to explain. We have to watch the spending. When I had mentioned to the town board members that we spend $100,000 on an air conditioning unit here, I don't have to go into so much detail to them to realize, hey, listen, $100,000 is a lot of money. And then I find out that $100,000 only covered half the building for an air conditioning cost. And yet they still confirmed and approved a 3-2 vote to let that expenditure go out. Like most governments and like your household also, you either tell your children, you can't spend so much money. If I give you $20 to go to the movie, I expect you to give me some money back. Okay? When this town board goes out and spends money, and I would say recklessly, that should raise a red flag. Okay? We're adults here. We know what the expenditures are. We don't have to go each and every week say, listen, you can't vote that way. You can't. They're grown men. They're elected officials. They can vote any which way they want. But they have to vote and be responsible on their decisions on how to spend money. So when you continue to ask the supervisor, oh, at what point did you know? Listen, we're all elected officials here. If I feel like spending X amount of money because I believe that light bulbs should cost $30, then I'll do that. But there is a responsibility here, and that's the point that's been missing, okay? So to cross-examine and to find and pinpoint an exact day as to when did we know about this budget, that's not the point. The point is how we've been spending recklessly and or responsible, and that needs to go on, because this country isn't a problem. Everywhere you look, people are spending crazy. No one likes government. It's the few people who stand up and try to save a couple dollars, and believe it or not, they are shouted down because they don't go with the majority. When the U.S. Navy spends, $900 on a toilet seat, everyone says, well, yeah, no, that's just the way business is done. It's not going to happen here. I watch each and every step as we go along, okay? And I just want to end it by saying, this is not a spending enterprise. We should be able to save money each and every way. And the bottom line is we don't want to see a tax increase in this community.
The bottom line is you didn't get your answer. That's the bottom line.
Thank you, Ms. Hudak.
And as a taxpayers out there, what you need to do is you need to demand accountability from this board. That is what the speaker is saying. And the supervisor can laugh all he wants because he's not giving the accountability that's necessary to the taxpayers because he's the chief budget officer. He dodges the questions. We need answers. You need answers. You need answers to questions like Mr. Grossman's, to Mr. Schwartz's, to Mr. Box. That's what we need, and we don't get it on this board.
Mr. Yee, you said I shouldn't cross-examine the supervisor, and I don't believe I was really cross-examining him, but it was my understanding that this part of the forum is for me to direct questions to the supervisor. And if I'm directing questions to him, you may construe that as cross-examination. But I can assure you I have not begun to cross-examine him. I want to respond to two things that you said, though. You mentioned if you give your children $20 to go to the movies and you expect something back. That's fine. We all have families. We all have budgets. And we know that in our family budgets, if things go off the deep end or if expenditures get out of whack, we have to deal with it. I'm asking what this town board and what the supervisor has done, knowing at a certain point that this budget was getting out of whack, and I still haven't gotten the answer as to when. But you also said, and I think you said you watch each and every step in the way of the process. So I posed the question to you, sir. When did you know the town was hitting a $500,000 deficit, and what did you do about it?
Sir, with all due respect, I knew when I was notified, when the final numbers came out, to do this next year's budget. That's when I knew.
Which was September.
And did you have access to the computer printouts of the expenses during the course of the year?
Next year's budget? Or do you mean in 2009? For
Right.
2010?
You see, this is a printout we get, yes. And
Do you get them each month?
yes, each month. This
And,
one
and
is.
so is it, did you
Victor,
see?
now, please, there won't be any
I feel like I'm
interrogation.
right.
Yeah, part of, let me,
You may make a point. Bob,
This is
you may make a
September.
point.
This is
Right.
September 10, and I get one each and every month.
So you
and
will-
I'm not.
Victor, there will be no interrogation.
Right.
Let's
I'm
let
gonna-
the board reply. Councilman Yee has the floor.
Well,
Please
okay.
proceed.
So when we get notified through the supervisor and/or the town accountant, because we don't have a CPA or someone assigned to let us, or a controller for the town, we get notified because we now have to prepare the budget for next year. That's when we know what the bottom dollars are. That's what we look for, okay? As we go through the year, January through September, we don't know the exact number. We do know that we're falling short. And we do let everyone know that we should watch the spending. We should watch. It's like telling your kids, listen, I only make X amount of dollars, okay? You can't keep spending and going to a movie each week, okay?
Mr. Yee, I don't think anybody in the town expects you to know
made
the
your
exact
point.
number.
But
And
you're
there are
asking
other
me
If you have a-
when
if you have a
and I
budget
ex-
line-
And I
Victor,
explained to you when I
If-
do.
if you
There
have
is
a
no
budget
back and
line,
forth,
may I
Victor.
just finish my question, please?
There is no back and forth. You may make your point.
All right,
We have
fine.
other business on the agenda tonight. It's already 10 o'clock.
All right, I will pose then the one question. Nobody expects you to know each and every piece of minutia on those printouts. But you should be able to tell, using your example, if you've got a budget line of $30 for light bulbs and you have a monthly expenditure of $300 for light bulbs, you ought to be able to ask those questions as to why. Thank you.
one of the things I found out,
Yes, Tom.
part of the budget for 2010, which we had nothing to do with, Liz or I, they had in there $200,000 they anticipated for revenue for planning board fees. So far, year to date, we only made $26,000.
Well, it's about 50, but you're right, there's a shortfall.
There's a severe shortfall. It was over optimistic in the planning board fees. At some point, when these projects weren't coming online that was anticipated, I would think the supervisor should have said, we got a severe problem here because we anticipated $200,000 in fees. And we're only up to, the last I saw was 26,000, maybe it's closer to 50 now.
Well,
So
Bob-
that should have been a couple of months ago. There was a red flag, and unfortunately, we weren't notified until September was actually
June.
primary day, when I was here to vote, that I checked my mailbox, and I had a memo from the accountant saying the severe the straits we were in.
And in addition, Bob, in addition to the planning board shortfall, which was about, it's in round numbers, 150,000, which arose because we were looking for one of three projects, State Line, Crossroads at 312, and a residential project to throw off additional revenues. and none of those planes landed, figuratively speaking. None
And
of
you
those
voted
planes
against state
will
law,
land,
so you in place.
will land in 2010. Now it looks like they're going to land in 2011.
Personal, but
The
how can you
shortfall had to be
anticipate
made
money
up.
come in for a project you didn't even vote for?
And in addition, there was a pension, a New York State pension fund assessment on all the municipalities in Southeast, and the assessment by the New York State pension fund is significantly in excess of what was budgeted by the municipalities, including Southeast, not limited to us. So all the towns are getting clobbered statewide by this additional assessment and are struggling with the shortfall that it is creating. In the case of the town, our additional assessment, beyond what we budgeted, was $200,000. So when we're talking about a $200,000 additional assessment, we can call it an unfunded mandate, because that's what it is, and we're talking about a $150,000 shortfall in revenues from planning board because in the recession economy, a couple of building projects did not come online when projected. Obviously, that money has to come from somewhere, and had to come from our unexpended fund balance in this instance. And I knew that. We recognized the precariousness of that in June and raised a red flag in June. Yes, Counsel.
Yes, and my comments are as a resident, not representing a corporation, a business, or my judicial capacity in another jurisdiction. But these comments are based upon my experience as an attorney, that in my career and my firm, we've represented many, many Fortune 500 corporations, multinational corporations, and single-family homeowners as well. And my comment is one of concern. Mr. Cullen mentioned the fact that there was a shortfall on planning board fees, that was a budget line where you were thinking that there might be an additional $200,000. My point is this, and this is my concern. Good quality economic development and investment in a community is similar to what you see from those Fortune 100 corporations and multinational corporations. For example, in many instances, those corporations steer away from nations and countries where there appears to be instability and volatility in governance. Unfortunately, my concern as a resident is that what I've witnessed is something that someone who is looking to locate a major corporation headquarters or a satellite operation, and I know there may be people in the community or perhaps particular individuals that are not so gung-ho economic development as I am, but my concern is this, that I think that the image that's being portrayed, and I'm not singling a person out, and I have to refrain from any political comment. My concern is that I implore all the members of the board to try to resolve whatever differences you have, because there are other people watching, and there are other investors that are out there. And I'm representing a $1 billion investment in a community to the north of here. They're up there for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8. We're only halfway, folks, so we need to pick up the pace. Board of Ethics appointment and Board of Ethics RFP.
I put this on the agenda because back in, I believe it was June, we had sent out an RFP for an attorney or someone with a knowledge of municipal ethics to draw up a new ethics code for the town of Southeast. We have an antiquated document of a couple of pages, and it's one that's recommended by the town code of the state of New York.